All right, everybody, this is the Horn Takes podcast. Your very rough around the edges Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. It's Friday Eve. We're almost to the weekend. And man, this is probably like the most sports all together in 1 week that anybody could hope for from a college sports perspective. We got some Hardwood Horns. We got both men's and women's basketball, rather. We got Texas baseball. We got Texas softball. Spring and Sprung on college football on the 40 acres. We're going to talk about all that. And we got to talk about this Kadyn Proctor situation. What a mess that all is. Let's check it out. Let's get into it. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, we go live on YouTube. You can check that out as well. But if you just like to listen to podcasts, horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Click that link, hit that URL. Subscribe there. You can listen to us anywhere you're at in the world, right? If you like travel on planes a lot, maybe you ride around in cars all day long. You don't have time. You can't watch the show. horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We are on iHeart. We're on all those places. Check us out. Hardwood Horns. Let's start off with ladies first. The women are 30-4. One of the number one seeds in the tournament. They got Drexel at 2 p.m. tomorrow at the Moody Center. That's going to be on ESPNU. The women have had a fantastic season so far this year. Lost a really good player early in the season. Really battled back. Put together a really, really outstanding season so far. Tough to be better than a number one seed. They're not the number one overall seed. And I think I heard something the other day about the South Carolina team. Usually when people in a big tournament, like we did this last year in the College World Series, leading up to the College World Series, for us it was LSU versus the field, and we actually picked the field. And I think we were wrong. LSU pulled it out. Won the College World Series. But anytime you're looking at 64 teams starting a tournament, you got to go with the odds. And the odds are South Carolina ain't winning. You got to pick the field. I don't know. We'll see what happens. March Madness is one of the most interesting tournaments because it's it's single elimination. You got to keep winning to win it all. And just like the men, I'm sure there's teams that get hot in this tournament on the women's side that people just don't expect to get hot. Switching over to the men, they're 20-12. They're inexplicably a 7 seed. I don't know how they did that. We talked to Hards last week. We talked about how they might be able to improve themselves at the Big 12 tournament. Hards thought maybe 6, maybe 7, if they could win some games in the Big 12 tournament. I think they headed into the Big 12 tournament. According to all the bracketology, these guys were an 8 seed. They go lose a game to Kansas State in the Big 12 tournament, one and done. They get a 7 seed. I don't know. I don't know if there's a huge difference between a 7, 8, 9 seed. I really don't know. All I do know is they got Colorado State tonight at 5:50 p.m. on TNT. Colorado State played a play-in game against Virginia. And I didn't watch that game. I don't even know if I've seen a final score for that game. At one point, it looked like Virginia had scored like almost 0 points in a half of college basketball, like 19 points, 17 points. an absurd amount of lack of points is what they did. I don't know what the final score was. I don't know how good Colorado State is. I know this about Texas. They've been up and down all season long. Some games they've looked really good. Some games they have looked really, really bad. They kind of got hot towards the end of the season. They won 3 of 4 of the last 4 games in Big 12 play. So I think a lot of people thought, I think a lot of Texas fans thought, hey, man, they might go into the Big 12 tournament. They might get something done. And they absolutely laid an egg. Absolutely laid an egg. They had a 39-29 lead against Kansas State, headed into the second half of that game. They gave up almost 50 points in the second half. And not only did they give up a ton of points, they couldn't score at all. There was one stretch where they went 2 of 14 from the field. I think that's what it was to start the second half there. They didn't make a third basket until 7:57 left in the second half. So you can't give up 50 points in a half and be that bad shooting the ball in a half. And it wasn't just shooting. They couldn't miss. I mean, they couldn't make layups. They couldn't make anything until, I don't know, a minute and a half or so left. A. Smith finally gets hot. He'd been missing the entire second half. Got hot and made it a game. Yeah, they lost a 10-point lead. I believe Kansas State built themselves a 10-point lead in the second half. Then it got close again. I don't know. They probably weren't going to win the Big 12 tournament. And it doesn't seem to have hurt them to not win a game at the Big 12 tournament. So I'm not that worried about it. I mean, again, I think this is the type of team. We've been saying this for a while now. So first we started out the season saying, man, they're struggling in some of the ranked games they played. They're struggling against ranked teams, but they don't have Dessou yet. And so when Dessou came back, we thought, this team's going to look a lot different. By the end of the season, this team's going to look a lot different. They're going to be competitive like they were at the end of last season and most of last season, actually. But that's not what happened. They just were kind of up and down. I mean, they didn't have a 2-game winning streak until the very end of the season since January. So they had a 2-game winning streak at the end of January. They didn't do another 2-game winning streak until the very end of Big 12 regular season. And then we went like, they're not going to make the tournament. I mean, I thought they weren't going to make the tournament. They were that bad. Came on at the end of regular season, secured their spot in the tournament, had some big road wins, some wins against some ranked opponents. And now they're in. I don't know what to think about this team, man. I don't know. I could see this team easily losing tonight. It would not surprise me one single bit if Texas lost the first game of the NCAA tournament. It also wouldn't surprise me for this team to make the Sweet 16. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if they win tonight, they more than likely have Tennessee. I believe they would play Saturday. I could see them beat Tennessee. I could also see them losing to Colorado State. Something that's interesting, I saw this on one of the message boards, Texas message boards. There's an ESPN mock tournament, and I don't know how they I don't know I don't know what this means. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it's like just people's guesses with ESPN or if they somehow like ran through some games on. Is there a college basketball game? I don't know. Anyway, some mock tourney has them in the Elite Eight. Texas in the Elite Eight. I don't know. We'll have to see. I just don't think this team's consistent enough to make it that far. But I guess you just don't have to be consistent. You just have to win like 3 games. Win 3 games in a row, which I don't think Texas has done that very often this season. So we'll see. 5:50 tonight, TNT, Colorado State. In Charlotte, North Carolina. See if they can get it done. Texas baseball / softball. The women's softball, let's talk about them, man. What they are doing awesome so far this year. They are 25-3, 5-1 in the Big 12. Their only loss was a game on the road against Houston. They've been ranked as high as number 1. They're currently ranked number 2. They just got done run rule in Florida State last night, 10-0 through 6 innings. That's the first time Florida State has been run ruled in a long time at home. And I had to go look it up. I was just kind of curious. Texas softball, they've played 28 games. 13, almost half of the games they've played so far this season, they've run ruled their opponent. That's pretty amazing. I think it's a really talented team. It might be one of the best talent-wise teams Texas softball's ever had. So kudos to those ladies. I always forget to talk about the lady sports. It's not because I don't like lady sports necessarily. It's because I just can't keep up with all that stuff and do all the other stuff that I have to do. I got a wife. I got a son that's playing baseball. So I'm missing a lot. But good luck to those Lady Horns the rest of the season. Can't wait. I know they'll wind up with a deep run in the tournament. Texas baseball. Man. We were so excited when baseball season started. We talked so much about this team having a good mix of guys with some experience on the team and then a lot of really good young talent, especially pitching talent. We were excited about, Tanner Witt. Excited about possibly some of the transfer guys that came in. Pitchers that came in. Just has not been really worked out so far. We had Mike Harge on the show last week, and one of the things I talked to Mike about, and it really came from a question from somebody that I don't know if they follow me on TikTok or just saw a video, asked me the question: is a trip to the College World Series enough for Texas fans? And the title of that show last week was College World Series or Bust. And man, we both agreed. Me and Harge both agreed. It's the goal is definitely getting to the College World Series for Texas fans, and we want College World Series championships. We got 6 of them. Tied for second most all time. So tons of expectations from Texas fans about Texas baseball. But we may about to be a bust from a baseball perspective. I don't think, at least so far, this team is not as good as last year's team. that was close to making it to the College World Series, but didn't make it to the College World Series. I still think they're talented. I mean, I don't. They just have to be more consistent. Right now, we're 13-8, 2-1 in Big 12 play. And I gotta say, man, the Washington series was really, really a letdown for me. I thought Texas had a good shot at sweeping that series. And I thought for sure we would win that series. Like, there was no question in my mind Texas was going to win the series. And in baseball, that's what you want to do. You can't win every single baseball game. That's just not the way it works. And that's why they play series in baseball, because you can't just go, okay, we won that game against so-and-so, we're better than so-and-so. That's not how it works. That's why you play series against so-and-so. And when you play series, if you win the series, that's a big positive, even if you do lose a game. If you're playing a 5-game, and I know they don't in college, but look ahead to the major leagues. They play 5-game series, 7-game series. That means you can lose 2 or lose 3 games. You're still better. But man, they just went out there and laid an egg and lost a series to the Washington Huskies. And I don't know if it's just Washington Huskies and they're our kryptonite right now. I don't know. They beat us in the college football playoff semifinal. And then they came down to Austin. I mean, Washington, I don't think, can play a game outside in Washington for like another month. Like, if they're going to play games, they got to go on the road this time of year. That's Washington. Washington was picked 7th or 8th in the Pac-12. But they come to Austin and they win 2 out of 3. I think they might have swept Texas if it were not for the curfew on Sunday. It was 4-1 for a while. They get 2 runs pretty quick towards the end, and then they run out of time. I mean, I'm not saying they would have won necessarily, but I'll say that it was damn close. They had another inning. We were running out of pitching. LBJ goes 6 innings in game 1. That's outstanding. That's what we need. We need more consistency with the starters. Got to get at least 6 innings, right? Turns it over to the bullpen with a 3-1 lead. It took 2 relievers out of the bullpen to get 3 outs in the 7th, and they gave up 6 runs. Texas lost that game 9-3. Cody Howard gives up 5 runs, can only manage 2 innings in game 2. And then Boogie Whitehead comes in, pitches 7 innings in relief, no runs. Bats could only manage 7 hits in that game. Texas loses that game 5-3. So 2-0. Washington. And then Max Grubb starts the Sunday game against Washington, gives Texas 6 innings, surrendering only 1 run. And the bullpen was able to hold on until the curfew hit. Texas wins that one 4-3. 18 hits and 10 runs in 3 games offensively for Texas in that Washington series. I don't think that's going to get it done too often. And we've talked about it a million times. The top of this order, there's some other guys on this team that can hit. I mean, the team average, batting average is over 300. I think that's solid. But most of that damage is coming from the top of the lineup. And as those guys go, this offense goes. And when they're off, this offense does not go. And the top of the order was 7-29 with 2 RBI in the entire series against Washington. So not only was there some lackluster pitching in that Washington series, but the offense just kind of didn't show up. pretty crummy weather. Is that an excuse? I don't know. So then they head into Tuesday night, and we have a midweek with Air Force. 2 games, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. And before we get into that, man, I really love the coach at Air Force. That guy is awesome. I don't know what it is about him. He's just like completely honest. He's authentic. He seems like a really awesome dude to just know, much less to play for. I think those kids at Air Force Academy really lucky to have that guy as the head coach. We're all really lucky to have all those players be Americans and be future leaders in the Air Force, pilots, whatever they end up being. Really smart kids and disciplined kids. Those dudes are something else, man. Just all the kids at all the academies are something else. That's a lot that those kids are responsible for, a lot that they have to do just outside of being a student athlete. It's pretty amazing. They fly in on, I forgot, I think it's a C-17 they flew in on. That's kind of cool. Probably not cool for them. But, these guys, most of those guys aren't going to go play professional baseball. Most of them are not even going to get a chance. The ones that do transfer out and they go somewhere else, the ones that develop late, whatever, they just play to play. And I don't know. I think there's something to be said for that. I think that's awesome. But they always give Texas trouble. They did get the sweep against Air Force, and that was kind of I don't know. I think you should win that series. You should win those 2 games with Air Force during the midweek. But you never know. And man, those Air Force guys just play hard. Texas ends up winning game 1 in extra innings, 6-5. They had to come back. I kind of thought Texas was going to mess that one up. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was out of town. My son's game. They end up clawing, finally get back in the game, win that one 6-5. And then last night, the offense really played well. The pitching was really good, 12-3 win. Fontenot got the start on Tuesday, only manages 1 inning. I don't know if that was on purpose. He didn't look great. Gave up some runs right off the bat. But what was really good about Wednesday night, last night, was Charlie Hurley went 5 innings. And I think that is really, really important. Charlie Hurley has struggled horribly to go very many innings this year in every start he's had. 5 isn't great, but it's certainly better than 3. And this team, I should have done the math this time around. I will after this weekend series. But the last time I looked at it, maybe a week ago, the starting pitching had only made it on average 3 1/3 innings, maybe 3 2/3 innings. And you just are not going to win a lot of games if you're starting pitching. I mean, guys, they don't have just hundreds of arms in the bullpen. There's not just like 50 dudes sitting out there. Baseball is not like football. If you can't get 5, 6, 7 innings with your starters, after you play a midweek game and a weekend series, you're out of pitching quick. So it's really good to see Charlie Hurley make it 5 innings. Looked pretty good. They need more of that. State of the program for me, man, I would love to see Boogie Whitehead get a chance to start a game. Maybe we'll see it this weekend. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. Love to see Boogie Whitehead get a start. Max Grubbs, he's been pretty good. I think those two could be 2 and 3 in some kind of order. We'll see if it happens. I don't think it's going to be Max Grubbs because I think he pitched during this midweek. But didn't see Witt at all, so maybe Witt does get a start this weekend against Baylor. But I don't understand what Boogie White has not done. He has come in and relieved 2 games so far this season that I can recall, and I'm sure he's pitched more than that, where he's gotten a ton of innings, 6 innings and 7 innings as a relief guy. If he can get 6, 7 innings as a relief guy, he can get 6, 7 or innings as a starter. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Boogie gets a start this weekend. Porter Brown finally starting to flirt a little bit with 300 offensively. That's good. I don't know what happened to the camera there, but it's back. We're back. Yeah, Baloo absolutely crushed a baseball. That kid has a ton of power. He hit one, I think they said it was 420 feet, 108 miles an hour off the bat. The second he hit the ball, my son, he goes, "That's gone." And it was. He's starting to come on. O'Dowd finally getting over 200. He and Brown just had the most awful starts this season offensively, but they're finally starting to get baseball consistent. I say baseball consistent because it's even really good consistency in baseball at the plate is not good. 300 is kind of the mark you're trying to hit, and that's 30%. 30% is not good, except in baseball. Maybe making 30% in the stock market. 30% on your investment, that's good too. But we'll just talk sports. 30% is not good in sports, except for baseball. Texas resumes Big 12 play this weekend against Baylor at home. Friday night, 6:30 p.m. Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Sunday, 1 p.m. All games at the Dish. The games will be on Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network. Again, if you get a chance to listen to Longhorn Radio Network, hopefully Craig Way will call one of these games. I don't know. Probably not. He'll be with the basketball team. We'll see how that goes. Man, he is so awesome to listen to. Again, I've been bragging on it all year, talking about it all year. This dude, he makes you feel like you're there. You can actually see what's happening when Craig Way is calling a baseball game on the radio. So check that out. Texas spring football has sprung. Not a whole lot of updates as far. I mean, they don't talk a lot about it. There's not a lot of media time there. But Sark did have a presser, and I was really encouraged by his position on the depth chart. He talked about for the first time since he's headed into season 4 at the University of Texas. He said he finally feels like he's got depth everywhere. And we've talked about this so much about Steve Sarkisian and these recruiting classes he's brought in. Just sort of stacking depth. And he said, for the first time, I got guys everywhere. And I believe that. I think last year, they kind of had guys everywhere. And it's only going to get better and better. We talked a lot during last year's football season about it being a pivotal season. We said it back during the summer. For me, this was a pivotal season for Steve Sarkisian. He's had, to this point, he'd had a couple of really good recruiting classes. He had an offensive line that was finally building some experience. A lot of young guys, really talented, finally had some experience. They just had the quarterback. This was his second year with the program. Talking Quinn Ewers. Just a lot of pieces in place for that team to be good. And we thought it was a pivotal year from a recruiting perspective. Like so much of being successful at the collegiate level is recruiting. Obviously, there are good coaches. There are coaches that are better than others. But you aren't going to see national champion caliber type teams with bad coaches. You're not going to see them with bad players. You got to have good players, and he done it so well. But after a while, he had a lot of momentum when he got to Texas from a recruiting perspective. People want to go to Texas. People want to play for Sark. But after a while, that wears off if you don't do something on the field. And so to me, I was thinking this team absolutely has to win the Big 12 championship. And hopefully they got a farewell and some postseason play, whether it's just a decent bowl game or, the playoff would be nice. This is what we're saying last summer. But if they can do that, they can keep this recruiting momentum. And they certainly have. And so I think Sark is just going to continue to pile on more and more talent. I think what he's building at Texas is going to be something special. He thinks it's going to be something special. I'm really excited about this year. I can't wait for the summertime for us to start talking about it. I don't know. I just can't wait till August. Fall camp starts. We're about to start playing some games. 2025 SEC schedules are out. It's this year's schedule flipped for all teams, as far as I know. Definitely is for Texas. A lot of people are upset. I saw a lot of tweets. I'm upset. I was hoping to see this game. I was hoping to see that game. There's a lot of games. There are going to be a lot of good games in SEC play for the next however long. Patience, folks. Patience. I don't know why anybody thought it would be anything different than this year's schedule flipped on its head. Maybe I'm naive. Texas Pro Day. Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell both had a really good pro day. I think sort of all the ground they made up at the combine, all the impressive things they did at the combine, they only added to that by this pro day. On the flip side of that, you got JT Sanders, who did not have a great combine, also did not have a great pro day. He is a mystery to me. He's an amazing athlete. He's obviously a good tight end. He can get down the field. He has probably the best hands of any Texas guy on the roster this last season. I mean, that guy just makes catches. You look at him, he's big, fast, on the field, right? And maybe he's just a guy that just doesn't do drills very well. I don't know. You know how you have some smart people that can't take tests? Maybe he's a elite athlete that can't take the test. He can't do well on the combine. He can't. I mean, the dude bench pressed 225 8 times. 8 times. That is not good at all. I'm about to turn 47 this year. I haven't lifted consistently in at least 6 months. I could go to the gym today and hit 10 or 12 reps, somewhere between 10 to 12 reps on 225. And you got to think, this guy's been at the University of Texas. He's had world-class facilities, world-class training. I mean, I hope he's just injured and he didn't want to disclose it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it ultimately matters. It may be much ado about nothing. For me, like if I was a GM, I got to think either the guy is hurt or strength is definitely an issue with him. Maybe work ethic is some type of issue to him. I mean, Keelan Robinson did 20 reps. Keelan Robinson's not near as big, not even close as JT Sanders. So it'll be interesting to see how the poor, I don't say poor, not as good as expected combine, not as good as expected pro day. It'll be interesting to see how all that factors into JT Sanders and where he gets picked in this NFL draft. A lot of coaches came into town to watch Quinn Ewers throw. Seems like he did pretty well. I saw a couple of the throws. Looked like he missed one. Looks like Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell probably bailed him out on a lot of throws. That's all right. Looks like Texas may have a couple first rounders, maybe 3 first rounders. We go back and talk about Steve Sarkisian and just the talent he's brought into Texas in just a few short years. It's been a long time since Texas has had. I mean, the story for a long time was, don't go to Texas. You're not going to get developed. Texas can't produce any, or Texas brings in all this talent and they can't get them into the NFL draft. And that was kind of true. It was pretty slim pickings for Texas players for a while when you talk about the NFL draft. And this season, they're going to put a lot of guys in the NFL. And next season, they're going to put a lot of guys in the NFL. And he's stacking talent. I mean, Texas is going to become and will be an NFL factory. Can't wait to watch this team in the fall. I am excited. I try not to get too excited because we're still so far away. We've still got damage to do in basketball, men's and women's. We still got damage to do on the diamond, men's and women's. We got to do that damage, and then we can start getting excited about college football, my favorite time of the year. Let's talk about Kadyn Proctor for a minute. So there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, folks, it is officially broke. So for those of you that do not know, Kadyn Proctor, true freshman at Alabama this last year, one of the most highly recruited offensive linemen in his class. Sure, he was a 5-star guy. Big dude. I think he's like 6'7", 360 something. I mean, this dude is big. Had a rough start, as most freshmen do. It's hard. I mean, offensive line is probably one of the hardest positions to go from high school and be successful immediately in college. And this kid got thrown in the mix at left tackle. And he struggled early on, but got his stuff together. Ended up having an okay season, right, for a freshman, especially playing left tackle. Saban says, I'm done. He enters the transfer portal. He's from Iowa. So he takes a visit to Iowa. And poor old Iowa doesn't have the backing like University of Texas, University of Alabama, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Florida State, Ohio State. It doesn't have the NIL backing. Doesn't have the booster backing like those schools have. They can't afford to just throw a ton of money at people, and they threw a ton of money at this kid. And then now he's in the portal. And supposedly, and maybe it's already a done deal. I don't know. Supposedly he's going back to Alabama. So this kid enters the portal at the end of the season, goes and takes a bunch of money from Iowa. And Ferentz just flat out said it in the press conference. They threw about every resource they had from an NIL perspective at this kid. And before spring football even starts, he's out at Iowa and back down at Bama. Supposedly back down at Bama. Kadyn Proctor is a symbol, folks, and he's not a symbol in a good way. He is a symbol of the decline of college football, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. And I think Chris Phillips at SEC Unfiltered, we've been on the show with him. He's been on the show with us before. Chris Phillips has said it best. He said it about as good as you can say it. That the business of college football has never been better, but the sport itself has never been worse. I'm paraphrasing the shit out of what he said. What he said was awesome, and that's what he meant. And he's 100% correct. And a lot of people only focus on the business part of it and go, the business is great. Okay. I'm not a fan of college football for the business of college football. I don't give a shit if people I don't know are making a lot of money. I don't care that it's a $1 billion industry. I just want to watch college football. I want to go to college football games. One of the biggest attractions to college football to me is you recruited these kids and they were on your team and they were Texas Longhorns or they were Ohio State Buckeyes or they were LSU Tigers. They were Alabama Crimson Tide. That's what they were. In very rare cases, they would transfer maybe. But for the most part, where they went is where they went. And now we got starters leaving school to go make more money. We got guys leaving school to go to another school and then leaving school again before another season even happens. And I get the spirit of I get the spirit of NIL. I get the spirit of transfer portal. I understand it. But there is a massive difference between that guy should get to transfer because his coach either moved on to a different school or retired in this case. There's a huge difference between that and I can transfer 2 times within a few months. There's a huge difference between, athletes not being able to get paid for their name, image, and likeness. There's a huge difference between that and all these collectives that are out there that people are just donating money to. These big pots of money that some of these schools are able to build. And listen, Texas probably does it no better. There's probably no place that does it better than Texas. It's definitely an advantage for Texas. It's an advantage for Ohio State. It's an advantage for some of these blue blood programs with massive alumni base. The way NIL is today, definitely 100% an advantage. But it's not truly NIL. It's not name, image, and likeness means if they put me in a video game, I get some money for that. Okay. I can go sign some autographs and get paid for that. Okay. I can sell something that has my name on it. I'm 100% okay with that. I do a commercial for, a car dealership. They give me a car for a year or something. Okay. You're putting your name or your likeness into something, but most of these kids aren't doing that. And there are no rules on how any of it has to work. It is the absolute Wild West right now. And please God, somebody fix it. Do something. Like, I really hope Nick Saban, and I know people bagged on Nick Saban. Oh, he can't compete because of this. I don't believe that bullshit at all. He didn't want to mess with it. It's too hard. We're going to start to lose. I think some of the best coaches in the world coach at the collegiate level, but we're going to start to see those guys go to the NFL because it is too fucking hard to be a college coach anymore. You got to recruit them out of high school, which that's a year-round thing now. You got to play your season. Then you got to re-recruit all the guys that already signed letters of intent with you. It like never ends for a college coach. NFL coach, all he's got to do is coach a team. Most of the time, he doesn't even have to pick them. He doesn't have to pick the players that the GM hands him. He just got to coach them. He's got to take the X amount of players that the GM signs, whittle that down to an NFL roster size, and then go coach them. That's it. He doesn't have to go recruit anybody. He doesn't have to re-recruit them. What is happening in college football right now is not sustainable with NIL and transfer portal. And what Kadyn Proctor just did, surprisingly enough, is like the most absurd. It's well beyond anything that's happened so far from a transfer portal perspective. Got to fix it. I hope Nick fixed it. I know he went and talked to Congress. I hope he is part of some committee or some group or some board of people that takes a look at this and put some sanity around it. Again, I think kids should be able to transfer under certain circumstances. I think these guys should make some money off of their name, image, and likeness. But we gotta have some rules to it. It cannot just be the wild, wild west. If it stays that way, college football is done. Check us out next week. We'll see if those Hardwood Horns can make it past the first weekend. We'll see today if they can make it past the first round. We'll talk some Texas baseball. Big 12 series coming up this weekend with Baylor. And we'll keep gearing up for spring. Wow, we're already in spring. We don't have to gear up for spring football. Hopefully we'll have some more to talk about from a spring football perspective. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe, folks. Won't cost you guys a thing. Help me out. I appreciate it. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. Let's go Texas basketball, both of them. Let's go Texas Diamond Ball, both of them. You guys get hooked.